Hello everyone and welcome to the Keto Friends channel, episode 2, The Danger of Wheat. Now I know what you're thinking, because I thought the same thing myself. There's no way wheat's bad for you. All the nutritionists say, eat whole wheat bread, whole grains. The diet plate or the diet pyramid says base your diet on grains. And there's nothing that could be more wrong. Now it took me a near-death experience to change my mind, and what I'm really hoping is that maybe some of the information or hearing my story in this video could help convince you before you have to go through the sort of misery I went through. So let's just dive right into this video and get started talking about how bad wheat really is. It's actually worse than sugar. And so that's the really easy part. If you're talking about losing weight, no one in their right mind would say, well, let's eat spoonfuls of sugar every day to help us lose weight and get healthy. It's not going to work. Nobody's going to advocate that. But if you're eating bread, it's basically the same thing, if not worse. You know that piece of whole wheat bread, that bagel instead of a donut, those pretzels instead of chips? Those are going to spike your blood sugar even higher than table sugar. And I proved that to myself back in 2013 by just getting a blood glucose meter like the diabetics use and testing blood sugar before and after eating a candy bar and drinking a soda, and then testing it before and after eating a piece of bread. And what actually happened was my blood sugar spiked up higher from the bread than from the candy bar and the soda. So that's one huge reason, if you're looking to lose weight, to stop eating wheat. It's just going to eliminate a ton of sugar from your diet, and it's going to help you lose weight. But there's a darker side to it. So to tell you about my story, I have to tell you about the kind of shape I was in 2013. 52 years old. I had knots of swollen, angry pain in my back every single day. My knees were popping and clicking and just having little bits of swelling the size of marbles and where the tendons attach. My elbows hurt, my shoulders hurt, every joint basically hurt. I had no energy. I weighed anywhere between 240 to 250 pounds. And my hands were getting really bad from swollen knuckles, and I thought it was arthritis. My hands were losing function. They were getting really sore. And another thing that was happening was I had really bad allergies. And I kind of had all this stuff all my life, allergies and being overweight, and so I didn't really think much of it, that it could be caused by food. I thought, well, allergies are from pollen. Arthritis is from getting old. Back pain is from old back injuries. Joint pain is, well, I'm getting old. And so I kind of resigned myself to it, thinking, well, that's what happens when you get old. Well, as my hands started getting worse and worse, my knuckles were really sore, really swollen all the time. The backs of my hands felt swollen up across my knuckles. I thought, well, hey, I know. I'll make my own homemade bread. And kneading the dough is going to give my hands some really good exercise, help loosen them up really well. It's got to be good for my hands. And then also it's better than eating store-bought bread. It's going to have chemicals in it, and it's going to be made by whatever process that they use nowadays in all the big production facilities. So I started making my own bread. And it was delicious. Oh my goodness, home-baked bread, the way it smells, getting a big old slice of it straight out of the oven, putting butter all over it. It was delicious. And I made the homemade bread for a couple months, and instead of my hands and my joints or any of the symptoms getting any better, everything was getting worse. I was sneezing literally 15 or 20 times in a row every day. blowing my nose constantly, all the time, just so much mucus, eyes swelling shut, swollen sinuses to where I could hardly breathe through my nose. And as I made more homemade bread, and we ate more homemade bread, it got worse and worse and worse, to the point where my hands just kind of weren't even really working much at all. I got to the point where I couldn't even hold a pen and write my own name and be able to read it. And as I made more homemade bread and we ate more homemade bread, I started waking up at night with the pain in my hands, and my hands would be kind of curled up, and I'd have to move the fingers around to get them loosened up a little bit and get rid of some of the pain so I could get back to sleep. And that even got worse, to where it felt like there were little pieces of grit in my knuckles, and I could feel them grinding around as I moved my fingers around to kind of get them loosened up again. I had swelling on the back of my hands. I had swelling on my back, these little injuries from earlier years, just being swollen and angry and painful. And then one day, I took one of my homemade slices of bread to work, and I had it for lunch, and as soon as I ate that piece of bread, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. My eyes were swelling closed. I felt all glassy-eyed. I couldn't breathe through my nose at all. Like, both sides were just swollen completely shut. Not a bit of air coming through. And I was just kind of in a daze, like they say, brain fog. I couldn't think straight. I didn't know really what was going on. And so I made it back to my cubicle from the break room, and I sat there for a while, and I could feel my throat starting to swell closed. I couldn't breathe through my nose, and if I can't breathe through my throat, it's going to be really bad. So I'm kind of sitting there concentrating on getting my next breath and trying to figure out, should I dial 911? I don't really want to dial 911, and then I kind of figured that, well, if I start to pass out, I'll just push myself back and fall out of my chair and make a whole bunch of racket, and one of my coworkers is going to come and find out what happened and maybe help me out, call 911 for me, and hopefully I would make it. And of course, after that, I said, okay, maybe there is something to this weed is bad for you thing. Maybe these people that are saying that, maybe they're right. So I came home that night and discussed it with my wife, and we decided, hey, makes sense. Let's eliminate wheat from our diet just for a week and see how it goes. Well, day one, not a whole lot of difference. I still, a lot of pain, didn't sleep well, whatever. It's kind of too early to tell. Day one, wasn't expecting much. Day two, kind of felt a little better. But there were some days I had good days, some days I had bad days, so yeah, I was, not really convinced. But by day three, it was kind of like, when you have a head cold and it starts breaking up and you know that the worst part of it's over and you're starting to feel better. Well, on day three, I was convinced that that's what was causing my sinus allergies, and all my sneezing and swollen eyes and runny nose was going away. It was like my cold was breaking up. So, okay, I think pretty positive, pretty well convinced, but my hands were still pretty sore and they weren't working much better. So day four, well, yeah, okay, sinus is even better. Maybe my hands might be coming around, I wasn't really sure. But by day five, my sinuses were way better. Wasn't completely gone, it's not going to go away overnight, but my sinuses were way better, and my hands felt way better. And so, within 5 days, I was absolutely convinced, hey, I'm allergic to wheat. That was causing me all these problems. And it's gotten nothing but better ever since. So that was about 4 years ago, going on 5 years ago. And I'm 5 years older now. I'm just turned 57. And My knees don't hurt anymore. My back is not swollen, angry knots of pain anymore. I had my days where there's some pollen in the air and I sneeze a little bit, but I don't have allergies every day. And of course, the congestion from all the allergies made me snore really bad, which woke up my wife, and then she wakes me up to try and get me to stop snoring. So neither one of us was getting any sleep, but my snoring went away because the congestion went away. And as time went by and I kept wheat out of my diet, I got better and better and better. And the only thing I regret about eliminating wheat from my diet is that I didn't know about it sooner and didn't do it 20 or 30 years ago. Because I've suffered all my life with allergies and weight problems. I've been fat all my life, and hey, I'm going into my late 50s now, and I'm finally thin and far more healthy and feel much younger than I did when I was in my late 40s. And it's supposed to work the other way around. When you get older, you're supposed to get these aches and pains and have all these problems. Well, for me, it was a buildup of all this wheat that I was eating all my life. And it finally got so much that I actually almost overdosed and died from wheat. Because I was eating cereal, bread, pretzels instead of chips, because chips are bad, but pretzels, well, they turn directly into sugar, and it's a whole bunch of wheat. So the thing that I've concluded from all this is that a lot of the common ailments that plague everybody today in our society are caused by wheat in a lot of people. Now, it doesn't affect everybody the same. Everybody's metabolism is different. I'm sure there's plenty of people that can eat tons of bread and have no problem whatsoever. But there are estimates, they don't even know, that some of these sensitivities are just being found out about by medical science. But there are some estimates that put around 40 to 50% of the population are having these bad effects from wheat. So not only the sugar that wheat metabolizes into because it's a carb, and carbohydrates metabolize into sugar in your body, but all these other sensitivities. It causes some people stomach issues and intestinal issues, and even as bad as a disease called celiac disease, which was thought to be the only gluten sensitivity, or maybe the worst gluten sensitivity. But now some scientists and some doctors are finding out more and more and more sensitivities, like arthritic symptoms, inflammation, which swells up and hurts, makes your old injuries hurt worse. Things like allergies. All the symptoms I had. There's some scientists, some medical doctors just now coming out with research that shows how and why this happens. And so, if there's really anything that anybody hears on my channel that they make sense to them and wants to try, eliminating wheat should be the first thing, the most important thing. Because not only is it causing maybe some excess weight to be on your body that you have to carry around all day, and you're not very happy about that, but it could be causing all sorts of other misery. Like that really tired feeling that you have all the time. Just the aches and pains, and just, I was in general misery. And I quit eating wheat 1 week where I could barely walk across my backyard, make it up the 4 steps to my deck and into the house. That was hard. My knees hurt. It was tiring just barely to do that. And within a week of eliminating wheat from my diet, I went to one of our little nature trails nearby here and walked 6 miles. I hadn't walked 6 miles in years. And it was like, it wasn't overnight, but ever since then, just eliminating wheat from my diet, my health has got better and better. Because the gluten causes a lot of inflammation. And the gluten can actually get into your joints and then it kind of clumps together because they're sticky proteins and causes that feeling like you have a little bit of grit in there in your knuckles. Well, it's a little tiny microscopic globule of gluten. It's kind of collected there in your joints. And the gluten, well, your body can't tolerate it. That's the amazing thing where they say bread is so healthy, yet the main protein in it, your body just can't handle. It doesn't, nobody's body really digests gluten very well. And what can happen is that your intestinal wall can be tricked into opening up for this protein to make it look like it's something digestible and something good for the body, and then it gets into your bloodstream and causes all this havoc because it tricked your intestinal wall into letting it through thinking it was something good when it's something really, really bad. So I hope you can take my story and think about maybe some of the similar symptoms you might be having. Being tired, I mean, that's what everybody complains about. Allergies, joint pains, and I had the little pimples all over my skin that were popping up because of like an allergic reaction to all the wheat I was eating. Take all these symptoms, if you recognize any of them, give me a few days, maybe a week, and just eliminate wheat from your diet, and you'll know within 1 week whether or not wheat was hurting you or not. And hey, if you don't see any change, that's fine. Maybe you have some other problems. But for me, I'm telling you this because I experienced it myself. I'm not just kind of reading some studies or looking at some science or hearing a doctor say it and then parroting it back to you. This actually happened to me. And it could actually happen to you too. So if you eliminate wheat from your diet and you have any kind of success from it, please leave me a comment and tell me about it. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching.